On the 28th of February 1815, Napoleon Bonaparte landed on the French mainland after escaping his exile from Elba 2 days previously. In response, leaders around Europe met at the Congress of Vienna and once more looked to Arthur Wellesley, the first Duke of Wellington, to take command of the Allied army. The armies of Europe mustered and the stage was set for what became known as the 100 Days Campaign. Napoleon quickly took to the offensive and recognised that, if Wellington's Anglo-Allied army could join with the Prussians, the combined force would be larger than his French army. The crossroads at Quatre Bras therefore became a strategic position, since if the French held this interchange, they would prevent Wellington's forces from moving south eastwards towards the Prussians. However, Wellington was caught off guard, and his instructions at the start of the campaign were to defend Brussels from the French, as he was not sure what route Napoleon's army would follow. He had also received false reports of a flanking manoeuvre through Mons to the southwest. Wellington first received reports of the outbreak of hostilities at around 3 p.m. on the 15th of June from the Prince of Orange, a coalition commander. Within the next few hours, he received additional news that the French had skirmished early that morning with the Prussian First Corps at Charleroi. These reports prompted Wellington at 6 p.m. to draft initial orders to concentrate his army. However, he was still uncertain precisely where to bring his forces together, and it was not until almost midnight when he learned that the front near Mons was clear, that he ordered his army to move towards the Prussians under the command of Blücher. This delay meant that it was too late for him to move his army in sufficient strength to provide Blücher with support on the 16th of June at the Battle of Ligny. Wellington did not order his entire army to Quatre Bras on the 16th of June, still suspecting their flanking manoeuvre through Mons. The headquarters of the Anglo-Allied First Corps under the Prince of Orange, however, decided to ignore Wellington's order that it should assemble in and around Nivelles, instead choosing to take the initiative and converge on Quatre Bras. On the 15th of June, as the Prussian First Corps withdrew towards Ligny, there was a danger for the coalition forces that Ney would be able to advance through Quatre Bras and take his objectives with little or no opposition. At the headquarters of the First Corps at Genappe, around 3 miles from Quatre Bras, Major General Rebec, Chief of Staff to the Prince of Orange, realised the danger and ordered the commander of the 2nd Dutch Division to dispatch his 2nd Brigade to occupy Quatre Bras. This brigade, consisting of 2 regiments from Nassau, arrived at about 2 p.m. on the 15th of June. Early on the evening of the 15th of June, instead of obeying Wellington's order to concentrate the First Corps at Nivelles, which would have meant that the force occupying Quatre Bras would be abandoning the position, Rebec ordered the 1st Brigade of the 2nd Dutch Division to reinforce Prince Bernhard's 2nd Brigade. By countermanding a direct order from Wellington and using his own initiative, Rebec was responsible for the battle being fought at Quatre Bras on the following day, thereby preventing the French from keeping the 2 coalition armies apart and destroying each of them in turn. Ney spent the morning of the 16th of June massing his 1st and 2nd Corps and reconnoitring the enemy at Quatre Bras, who, he was informed, had been reinforced. But up till noon he took no serious steps to capture the crossroads, which he could have done with relative ease, and has gone down in history as one of the great what-if moments. At the beginning of the battle, the left wing of the Armée du Nord, with 18,000 men, including 2,000 cavalry and 32 guns, under Marshal Michel Ney, faced 8,000 infantry and 16 guns under the command of William, Prince of Orange. The Dutch were thinly deployed south of the crossroads of Quatre Bras. Fresh Allied troops started to arrive 2 hours later, along with Wellington, who took over command of the Allied forces. The battle began with a French attack around 2 p.m, when Ney massed a battery of 22 guns and started bombarding the coalition positions. Swarms of skirmishers preceded the French columns as they attacked. The Dutch picket line of the 2nd Division greeted them with musket volleys, but it was outnumbered, and those east of the Brussels highway were at once forced back by the mass of men moved against them. The Nassauers of the 2nd Brigade retreated to Grand Pira Point Farm, and Dutch troops of the 1st Brigade to Gemincourt, but the Allies managed, however, to hold the wood, facing 3 infantry divisions and a cavalry brigade. The situation became desperate for the 2nd Division. At around 3 p.m, the 5th British Infantry Division under Picton and the 3rd Dutch Light Cavalry Brigade arrived. By 3 p.m, the French formed a line between Pierrepoint and Gemincourt to Paramount. At 3:30 p.m, the Dutch 2nd Light Cavalry Brigade, led by the Prince of Orange, charged the French line. Although they were met by French cavalry and were thrown back, this gave the battered Dutch infantry time to regroup. When the Dutch Cavalry Brigade detached and retired to friendly lines, they were shot at by Scottish infantry because of their uniforms looking like the French uniforms of the Chasseurs Cheval. The Brunswick Corps under the Duke of Brunswick now reached the field, but their commander received a mortal wound while leading a charge, and the attack failed. At 4:15, Ney received Napoleon's order, dispatched around 2 p.m, to attack vigorously. He sent an order to his 2nd Corps to attack with more force. On Ney's left, Prince Jerome drove the Allies out of the Bossu woods. French forces advanced almost all the way to the crossroads. Regiments of the British 9th Brigade, the 42nd Black Watch, the 44th East Essex and the 92nd Gordon Highlanders held up against the infantry. French of the 2nd Brigade and the 2nd Cavalry Division counterattacked and severely mauled the 42nd and the 44th before they were driven off. At 5 p.m, the timely arrival of the British 3rd Division tipped the numerical balance back in favour of the Allies. At 1:15, Ney heard that the French 1st Corps, without his direct order or knowledge, had moved eastwards to assist in the Battle of Ligny. 15 minutes later, at 5:30, he received an unclear order from Napoleon to seize Quatre Bras and then to turn eastwards to crush Blucher, who was caught at Ligny. Due to the arrival of the Allied reinforcements, Ney realised that he could capture and hold Quatre Bras only with the support of the 1st Corps, and he sent imperative orders to d'Aulon to return at once. To keep the pressure on Wellington, immediately after sending for d'Aulon, Ney ordered Kellermann to lead his one available Cuirassier brigade and break through Wellington's line. Kellermann's Cuirassiers caught the British 5th Brigade and the 33rd West Riding, the 69th South Lincolnshire and the 73rd in line formation. The 69th were badly mauled, losing their King's colour, the only battalion under Wellington's direct command to do so. The 33rd and the 73rd were saved from a similar fate by running for the safety of Bossu Wood, where they rallied quickly. The Cuirassiers reached the crossroads, but were driven back by close-range artillery and musket fire. The arrival of the British 1st Division gave Wellington sufficient strength to counter-attack, and Jerome, whose skirmishers were now west of Quatre Bras, were forced to retreat and give up possession of the woods to the British Guards. When the Guards and other Allied units emerged from the woods, they were met with heavy fire from French infantry and an attack from the 6th Lancer Regiment and the 2nd Cavalry Division. The Guards were caught in line and forced to flee back into the woods. The cavalry attacked and, taking the woods, caused high casualties among the British Guards. There was some further skirmishing, but the battle was over. By 9 p.m, when the fighting stopped, the French had been forced to give up all of their territorial gains. The battle cost Ney 4,000 men, to Wellington's 4,800. Although the Allies had won the field, the French prevented them from coming to the aid of the Prussians at the Battle of Ligny. Wellington's Anglo-Allied army, upon learning of the Prussian defeat, was forced to retreat north along the Brussels road, further away from the Prussians, who retreated north-east towards Wavre. There has been so much debate about what would have happened if d'Aulon's First Corps had engaged at either Ligny or Quatre Bras. As he did not, Napoleon chose to follow Wellington with the bulk of his forces, and 2 days later met him at the Battle of Waterloo.